Behind the Badge, Illinois, giving you the inside scoop on public safety and those who protect and serve. Hear real stories directly from law enforcement experts and get a chance to ask questions about issues you've always wanted to know more about. You have the right to remain informed. This is Behind the Badge, Illinois.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Behind the Badge, Illinois. It's the end of May already, and we decided to do a grab bag. We've got Chief Brueggeman down in O'Fallon. We got Chief Byrd up in Dekalb. We got AJ from the ILACP and Chief Jogmen in Highland Park. The Behind the Badge, Illinois, sponsored by Team Hochberg. If you're looking to purchase a new home, refinance your existing home, give me a call. We provide substantial discounts to all first responders and their family members, like Lou's daughter right now is in the process of purchasing a home. We are waiving all of our processing fees and save a substantial amount of money. So we are going to do a mailbag. We've been receiving a lot of emails. I'm looking at my phone because we've got a ton of emails from our listeners with questions for the chiefs regarding different topics, from panhandling to why can't you shoot somebody in the leg, and other different types of questions from our listeners. So let's jump right into it, guys and gals. We have a question here about panhandling, so I'll go down to Chief Brueggeman. What's the police response, and how are police trained to handle panhandling? For those that don't know what panhandling is, it's somebody at the stoplight or the off-ramp that's there with the sign, I'm homeless, I'm feeding kids, and then some of them are bringing their families now. I've noticed they're carrying their kid or their dog. So how are you trained? And then we'll go around the board, obviously. How are you guys trained down in O'Fallon and in Southern Illinois to handle it, if that's even a problem down there? Because I know it's a problem up here. Is it a problem down there, and how do you handle it?
It is. I was driving through our business district yesterday, and at 3 different stoplights, getting off the interstate, there was someone. At the next stop sign, at the next stoplight, there was someone. We do have stoplights down here, by the way. And at the Sam's Club, there was someone. So, when I first started, it was there's a state law against it. There was a state law against it, that you cannot panhandle on a public roadway. So we would write tickets for people. And they'd have warrants, and we take them to jail. Well, a few years ago, they're up at, actually, it was a village of Downers Grove was sued by a couple of people, taken to court, and now it is case law throughout the state of Illinois and widely moving throughout the country that panhandling is a form of a First Amendment right. So the fact that you are sitting on the side of the roadway with a sign, whatever it says, if you're homeless, if you love God, or if you just need a cheeseburger or anything like that, that is considered now a First Amendment right. And for us to infringe upon that is a violation of someone's First Amendment rights there. So we have made a big shift over the last few years, and a lot of people are like, well, why can't you do something about this? I don't like the way this looks, in our town. Well, our officers if we do take action on that, either through a state law or a city ordinance against panhandling, those are unconstitutional. And not only can the city be sued, the officers can face civil liability, because now it is a widely known law, and officers are expected to know that they cannot enforce panhandling ordinances.
Oh.
One thing you can do is private property. So, if you have a particular business, they can still ban panhandling on their private property. So, sometimes with our Walmart or our Sam's Clubs, within their property, if the business says, "Hey, we don't want this happening," then we can have criminal trespass and trespass them from them at the request of the business. But as far as on roadways, in medians, it is a First Amendment right, and our hands are kind of tied there.
Chief Byrd?
Yeah, about that? Yeah, we dealt with that a lot with ISP. Sometimes we would be able to take action because they were obstructing traffic, because they would be actually on the ramps. And, so there was things like that we were able to take action on, and when I was with ISP, we deal with Tent City in Chicago. I was born and raised. So, I mean, we have a lot of homeless in Chicago as well. We have an encampment there. It's always been there right off around Roosevelt and Ryan. And when we went through the polar vortex a few years ago, I had to go out there and with some troopers, and we had to remove 200 propane tanks. They had 200 propane tanks out there. They were lighting and they were using for heat. It was during the polar vortex. It was unbelievable. If you guys remember that, it was freezing. It was crazy. And over 200 of those. So the homeless situation is not, it's of course, it's, mostly in the bigger cities. I mean, even here in Dekalb, we have a small contingency of people that we would consider homeless, but it's not to the level of like a Chicago or some of the bigger cities in the country that deal with it on a regular basis. So it's not really a major problem here, but like Chief Brueggeman said, there are a couple of people who are right on the cuffs. They know where the borderline and where the border is between private property. So they know where to stand. Believe me, they got this down to a science. So unfortunately, a lot just for the civilians and the community and the public, our hands are tied on a lot of these situations. If they're obstructing traffic, of course, we can act in those situations. And if they're on private property, we can trespass them. So,
what type of challenges are you seeing in Highland Park? Are they coming? Are they coming from the city? Because you got a metro stop right in the middle of your town, right? Are they getting on the metro train? Are they coming down? Are they coming at a highway in other areas? I mean, where are the home, or do you have a major problem in Highland Park?
Yeah, not a major problem, but we certainly have our share, and have no idea where the origins for these folks are, where they come from, if they're residents, if they're not. But I think this is an interesting point. I mean, it really is an interesting issue that highlights just the kind of the complexity that law enforcement finds itself in, the conundrum we find ourselves in. People want us to be the answer to every problem. And this is just one perfect example. And unfortunately, we have very little control over what, there are thousands of state statutes, federal statutes, ordinances that we've got, rules, regulations, policies, that we have no control over, that are just kind of sent our way. And then we're left to try to figure out how to enforce them or, make them work. And so I get calls. I mean, I'll tell you, I get calls every couple of weeks, somebody that's either concerned about or annoyed with the people that are walking and doing this. And I tell them, again, as Chief Brueggeman said, in 2021, there was a Chicago case that was heard. Illinois State Police were involved, and a number of other towns, and it was ruled that it is unconstitutional. We have to live with whatever the rulings are, and as we do, so do our residents and our community members, which highlights why it's important to really know what's going on downstate and to know what's going on with your legislature, because we're doing what we're able to do. And I feel like, they're disappointed when I hang up. They feel like we're not doing our job. They're upset with us. And it's frustrating because we can only do what we can do. And I think that they hang up that call thinking, just another civil servant doesn't want to do their job, but we can't do it. We'll put the community at risk, taxpayers at risk, because there'll be a hefty lawsuit that could be involved, and the residents pay for those. They just do. There's money that comes out of those lawsuits. But it highlights hundreds of issues where we're in the middle in law enforcement. And it's always been that way. It just is. It's just right now, it's so exacerbated by, I think, the plurality of what we've got going on in the country. Literally on every issue, we have half and half. So we've got people calling and saying, why don't you leave those people alone? And then you've got people calling saying, why aren't you doing anything about those people? Leave them alone. What are you doing? It's like constant. And it's on every issue. I can't even tell traffic. Why aren't you stopping speeders? Traffic's out of control. Why? It's a big deal. I mean, it's like, it is every issue. So it is an interesting role in law enforcement to be in that middle. This highlights it just perfectly because of the state, the finding at the judicial level. That's what we do now. And there are tons of those things. And so for our listeners, please know it isn't for lack of want. We certainly want to do the right thing, whatever that is, but the right thing varies with people. I mean, again, you could have one person say, what's the big deal? Another person say, deal with this. And how do we make all those people happy? The answer is we never will. So we do what's lawful, and whatever's on the books, that is what we stick with. And if it changes, which it often does, we change with it and we go where we're told to go. And that's our answer. But it's not us abdicating our responsibility at all.
But if it escalates to where the people that are panhandling become aggressive, that's a whole nother story, I would assume, right? Then you guys and your teams can get involved. And I'll give you another example. I'm driving down Lake Street in Chicago, passing Halsted, and there's a dude, buck-ass naked, just walking down Lake Street. And you're like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, that's something where public indecency is when the cops would step in and maybe call, this guy was clearly homeless. He was having some type of challenge, right? It's his bags and his roll up, but we're at the corner, and he just decides to walk across the lake in Halsted with no clothes on, right?
Yeah.
And so when that sort of thing, you call 911 and you guys would clear it out, right?
Yeah, if it crosses the line into criminality, or if they violate a statute, they victimize somebody, yeah, absolutely. Then we can get engaged and lawfully take action. It has to be supported by state law. Interesting, though, here's an interesting thing, and I can't blame people. They want the problem fixed. They kind of, with the least amount of pain or interaction. But oftentimes what happens is, like, let's consider, let's say an assault or they touch their car or damage their car, and they want us to get involved to stop that, which I completely understand. But then, of course, they don't want to pursue charges or press charges because they don't want to go to court. They just don't want all that goes with it. They just want us to make the problem go away. Problem is, once we put hands on people, and again, if we don't have a lawful reason to do it, we are now exposed for liability, obviously, for a whole other host of issues, false arrest. And we see this a lot. Shoplifting, they'll call us, they want their stuff back, and then we chase the person, tackle them, arrest them. Oh, I don't want to charge them, I just want my stuff back. Well, we don't have the legal authority to just get your stuff back and tackle somebody. You have to press charges. And I understand why people don't. So with this particular instance, yeah, if they're just walking, if there's an indecency issue, we can deal with that. If they do threaten somebody, that person's the victim. They have to be willing to sign complaints, generally speaking, for us to take that lawful action. If the person's, we can get there, kind of stop it going on, and try to assist them in the moment. But ultimately, if they don't want to pursue charges, we're limited in our response to what we can do. So there's a lot that goes into this, a lot.
All right, I got a good one here, and then I want to bring AJ into this.
One more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
If Chief Byrd talked a little bit about homelessness and unhoused and camping, and right now we're on the cusp. We're waiting for the Supreme Court. There is a case that's out there with Grants Pass, Oregon, that passed an ordinance against camping in the public, and it basically fined people who are homeless from using blankets, pillows, cardboard boxes, or protection while in the city limits. So the Supreme Court of the United States has actually heard a case and will be ruling on that constitutionality of ordinances against camping in the public. So stay tuned within the next month or so to see what happens with that, because there are a lot of different ordinances and laws throughout the country limiting people from camping on public. We had that over in St. Louis, where they were camping on the city hall grass for a while. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, we appreciate everybody for joining this week. We appreciate all the listeners and viewers for watching and listening. We appreciate everybody that emailed and sent us their email questions. And if you've got any questions, you could add more comments on the bottom of the comment section. You could like and forward. You could also send me an email, behindthebadgeillinois@gmail.com. You could send AJ an email, or any one of the chiefs an email. We'll do another mailbag later on in the year. Again, this podcast sponsored by Team Hochberg. If you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance your existing home, give me a call, 855-56-DAVID. Go to 56david.com. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Chief. We'll do it again next week.